Okay, so this is my reflection on my lesson. The lesson focused on sequencing, and students were definitely in need of some extra instruction on this, I think. I know I definitely will have to reteach a little bit and possibly reassess and keep working on sequencing stories. But from the pre-assessment data that I collected, after students finished the camera and the relay machine worksheet, I could tell that most didn't have much of an understanding of putting a story in order. I actually had most students redo theirs because they had the same numbers listed twice, or they just didn't really care about the work they were producing, which made it very, very hard to even begin assessing what they know. So throughout the lesson, I was constantly assessing what they knew and also reinforcing how all the events are connected and are put in order to form one cohesive story. So after we ordered the story together as a class, then students were put into groups to order the story, and throughout that I was just constantly assessing who could recall information in the correct order. From the post-assessment, I gave students a blank flow map, 9 squares, and a list of the characters in the book. I took away the sequence cards, and students were asked to complete the flow map on their own to see how much accurate information they could recall. Most students were able to do this pretty easily. Some picked out a few minor details which were unimportant, but most were correct on sequencing, which I was really happy about. 2 girls in particular really struggled with this flow map. One girl had just arrived at school the day before, and so she was definitely overwhelmed and just struggling with completing the assignment. And then the other one just couldn't recall any details from the book or the main ideas or anything like that. So first off, I gave her some hints. I was like, okay, so how does the story start? What are some characters? How does it end? How does it come to a conclusion? This wasn't working, so I kind of partnered off the girls, and I said, okay, girls, you can use these. I gave them back the story cards, the sequence cards, and I said, okay, go ahead and order the story once again. And then once they were able to do that, I just let them copy down the main ideas onto the flow map. And so then they were somewhat able to complete the flow map, but I could tell we definitely need to work more on summarizing and sequencing for these two. The majority of the students, though, received high grades on their flow map. I think they enjoyed the activity and they learned a lot from this lesson. Overall, I think I like the students' behavior the most in this lesson. I was really impressed with their behavior. So during the read aloud, they were very engaged and were more focused than usual, I think, because I gave them a job and they were held accountable for their part of the story. I think I did a good job of explaining why the order of the story contributes to its coherence, and it's crucial for the success of the story. I also think I facilitated the gradual release of responsibility very well. I know my students need very explicit, concrete instruction before they're ready to kind of grasp a concept on their own and try it out. So I'm glad they were attentive enough to understand the main plot of the story, and then we ordered it together, first in a group and then on their own. So from this lesson, I learned that for a story to be ordered, it first has to make sense. I think students struggled especially with the pre-assessment because I only read the story once to them, and then we didn't discuss it at all. It was up to them to complete the worksheet. So they found it hard to order the story. I think just from the text in front of them, they didn't really get it. So when I had them kind of redo it, I gave them some new strategies like, okay, we're going to put a number 1 by the first thing that happens. We're going to go through the story and order it and prove our answers. I also learned that my students really struggle with writing. I knew this was going to be a problem probably before that. So I'm sure that if they couldn't write out the story, they could probably verbally relate the story back to me. So if I were to reteach this lesson, I would first start off probably by laminating those blue sequence cards that I had together as a class, and then sticking magnets on the back so I didn't have to worry about tape or anything. I wasn't distracted at all during the lesson. I would definitely do that. I think I'd group students better, so the ones I partnered off to share a sequence card, making sure that if they had a partner to order the story cards with, they could work well together, and then one could help the other, of course. I'd also probably allow more students to verbally relate the story back to me once I saw they were struggling with writing their flow map, because the emphasis here was on sequencing and not on writing. So I think students were a little bit frustrated with writing it all out, which was not really the point of the activity. Also think I would include less cards in the animal action sound sort, because students were constantly referring back to the book, like what happened, and looking for answers and what the animals said, so which again took away the focus from sequencing. But overall, I think this lesson went really great, and I'm confident in saying that these third graders understand sequencing and its importance a little bit better from this lesson.